Hey guys, my name's Jordan and welcome back to my gaming channel. Name it's Game Productions, and today we are back with something a bit different. It's actually Battlefield 4 and it's sort of the remnants of what was my assignment hunter series, except I'm not really hunting for assignments anymore in it. I'm just going to be putting together clips of pretty, well, what I consider to be pretty decent gameplay throughout the week. Quick note about this clip that's playing right now. This mobile artillery is the most overpowered thing I have seen in my entire life. It's actually completely ridiculous. I just sat here, got a 14 kill streak in a mobile artillery. It was just ridiculous. I think it was 14 kills, or maybe 13, I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it's just incredibly overpowered. But anyway, moving onwards, we will get into the questions. Actually, beforehand, I've got to ask you guys a question. Ask you guys a question, and that is, what should I call this series? Leave a comment below if you can put up with YouTube's stupid comment system. But anyway, let's get into the questions. So this is a question from Sam Gaming. He says, what's the best screen capture software in your opinion? He's tried Fraps and MSI Afterburner, and the problems with Fraps, the files are massive, and MSI Afterburner, the frame rate is low. And he also wants to know what settings he'll be able to play BF4 on his 7850 and an FX 6300 with 4 gigs of RAM. Best screen capture software in my opinion is easily, without a doubt, DxTory. I personally used DxTory for a long time before I switched to using an external capture card. If you're interested, I use the Elgato Game Capture HD now, but I used DxTory before. It has a very little FPS hit on your game. It really is very little FPS hit. File sizes are quite big. They're not quite Fraps big, but they are still relatively sizable. If you go on my channel, I do have a video on how to set up DxTory for the best possible quality settings. And yeah, that's just what I'd wholeheartedly recommend. If you are having problems with the file size, you could try the Lags Lossless Codec. If you just Google that, it should come up with something to help you there. And then with regards to what settings you'll be able to play BF4 on your PC, in terms of graphics card and processor, you'll be fine. I probably would recommend adding an extra 4 gig of RAM, so you have 8 gigs of RAM total, because it does actually recommend 8 gigs of RAM. And if you have those specs, you'll be able to play it easily on at least high, possibly ultra, if you're willing to sacrifice 60 frames a second. So yeah. Next question is from Captain Fruffy21. And he says, would I have to buy a Wi-Fi adapter for my desktop, or should I get an outlet on my motherboard for an Ethernet cord? Ethernet cord. Pretty much every single motherboard nowadays comes with an Ethernet port on the back, so you will be fine with regards to using Ethernet. Ethernet is obviously better for gaming. There's much less latency and much less lost packets, well, much less potential for lost packets between you and the router if you're going with Ethernet. It really just depends on whether you're happy having a cable going from your router to your PC. If your computer's right next to your router, then obviously it'll be a much better solution for you to use an Ethernet cable, although if it's going to be trailing all over your house, it may not be the correct solution for you. Wi-Fi cards nowadays are pretty reliable. I mean, they're probably good enough for pretty much all gaming sort of uses. Trying to think of the right word there. So yeah, you should be pretty much fine for using Wi-Fi if you have to, although Ethernet is always better than Wi-Fi in terms of connection. Next question is from Martin Saucedo. He says, I have a Dell Inspiron PC with 8 gig of RAM and a 1 terabyte hard drive. I have an exceptional internet connection, but my game is incredibly slow on any video settings above minimal. Could this be because of my graphics card? I don't know without knowing the specs of your PC. I'm guessing it's relatively recent. It's probably using something like a Core i5 or something like that processor. It probably would be your graphics card which is the issue there. If you want a graphics card that will perform flawlessly on medium to high settings, depending on your budget, you could go anywhere from a 7790 to a 7870 on the AMD side, or something like a 650 Ti boost on the Nvidia side, something around that, or a 750. I don't even know, they haven't got a 750. What am I talking about there? But yeah, just a 650 Ti boost or above, a 660 or above, or a 7850, 7870 or above would be fine. Maybe even a 7790 on the AMD side, and yeah, that pretty much would do you very well. Although without knowing exact specs, I am unable to help you with any sort of accuracy, if that makes sense, but that would be my recommendation. Techie Brit says, bring back the budget PC builds, please. I have. I released one not long ago for £750. If you want to check that out, then be sure to do it. And hashtag gaming. It's quite difficult. He's done it in elite speak there. We got the 4 going in the username for an A. It's crazy. Is an FX 6100 and HD 7870 a good choice to run Battlefield 4 at a high with at least 60 FPS? Yes, easily. It depends on how much RAM you want, but well, how much RAM you have. I'd recommend if you have at least 8 gig of RAM. But yes, 7870 and a 6100 will run it on high with at least 60 frames per second easily. Unless you're in like super intense battles. Might even do some settings on Ultra. 7870's have got a 2 gig frame buffer, so you might be able to get Ultra texture quality on there as well, as long as you're not pushing any resolutions higher than 1080p. That's actually a pretty good side note. Whenever I say like recommendations for graphics cards, that's for running it at 1080p, not for running it at some ridiculous Eyefinity resolution, like 6 monitors or something like that. It is for 1080p. Obviously, the standard at the moment is most commonly 1080p on the Steam hardware and software summary. I think it is like the most common desktop screen resolution. So yeah, that's why all my recommendations are for 1080p, just because I think it's pretty relevant now. In the future, it'll probably be for 4K, because, you know, PC Master Race always moving ahead with their 4K gaming cards, in which you only really can use a 780 Ti or a 290X for 4K gaming, because they're the only things which pack enough power for running that sort of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the questions, guys. You need to be asking me more questions. Be sure to spam hundreds of questions in the video description, in the video comments, because I need more questions to answer, because I don't know, it gives me something to talk about, even though most of the time I do get sidetracked like ridiculously badly. I just get sidetracked by like the smallest things ever. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this episode. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, rate, comment, all of that awesome stuff. And that's pretty much it. So goodbye.